What is up, Badgers? This is Wasabi, and I'm here again today with Alex, the entrepreneur, developer at Badger. Alex, what's going on?
I'm just really excited for the things we're going to be talking about. Thank you for having me.
So yesterday we recorded an hour and 8 minutes of video about a single token approval transaction on SushiSwap, and you're back for more. So we're going to get into what happens after you approve a token. And I don't know, I think this is good. We were talking before we hit record, and so many people in DeFi, myself included, tend to just kind of quickly click through transactions. And, it's one of those things where most of the time it's fine, but very small percentage of the time there's a hacker and you can get wrecked. And if you have a large amount of funds in DeFi, it pays to invest the time into something like we're doing today to kind of show you each step along the way, how you can confirm everything. I think maybe, we could call this series like how to use DeFi like a paranoid developer or something like that, right? Like something where you can check everything from first principles, because that's the beauty of blockchain and Ethereum, right? Everything is this open system where if you have the tools, you can check it all the way down to the source code. So that's what we're doing today. We're taking the time and doing the checks and making sure users have the tools to do everything right. So thanks for doing this. This is great.
Yeah, as you said, we did spend a lot of time in just going through every detail because, first of all, there's a lot of nuance here. We are building on top of the internet stack, which already is really complicated. You can literally Google internet protocol to see how complicated it is for the internet to exist. And now with the EVM, with Ethereum, we're adding layers on top of that allows you to use, Metamask to interface through an RPC, basically URL, that allows you to communicate with the Ethereum blockchain. And so as you add more layers, the rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper.
Cool. So why don't we pick up where we were yesterday? So I'll just give a quick refresher as we get to what we're going to cover today. So here we are on SushiSwap, one of the most popular decentralized exchanges, and we were in the middle of paper handsing an ENS token from my airdrop that I got. So I'm going to just pull up that contract. So let's say I want to swap this for Ether. And today I just want to sell one of these. So I'm going to put in one here and click through the approve ENS because this is the first time I have used SushiSwap on my ENS tokens, right? So that this Metamask approval is going to come up.
Yeah, and you need to remember that you're not approving the website, you're approving a smart contract. So you have to be really careful about the fact that you may think you are, setting up sushi, but the reality is you're using the sushi website to set up your account so that you can work with a smart contract on Ethereum.
Yep. So this is the address of the smart contract that we are giving permission for the ENS. So the first thing to do would be to click on this and check it out on Etherscan. And
we have already some oddity here. You're seeing the token page.
Yep.
So my advice would be to just copy the address and navigate to the address page, or you can delete token in the URL and change it to, I think it's address. But basically, as you can see, it already is difficult to find information. So you really need to pay attention. Yep.
So now we're in the address page on Etherscan for this, and here are a few things I'm looking at. Okay, I see this has been labeled on Etherscan as SushiSwap router, so that makes sense. The router is the part of the contract, or the contract that's executing swaps. And then I'm going to go down in here and see, okay, there's 3 million transactions and they're happening regularly, so at least if we get hacked on this, we're in very good company with a lot of other people.
It gives you some confidence, yeah?
Yes. And then we can go and see who created this contract, and that this is not a or we can look at the identity of this this wallet, and this is marked as SushiSwap deployer. So Etherscan is telling us that this is a legitimate SushiSwap deployed contract.
Yeah, and if you go just by the shapes, you'll see that this is a address page for Etherscan. So if you look on the top left, you'll see address, and on the right side, you're not seeing a deployment transaction. While if you go back to the SushiSwap router page, you'll see that the keyword is contract, and then there is a deployment transaction.
All right, so back to the MetaMask. So we're back here on this permission page. The next thing we want to look at is the transaction details. And we're going to go down, and the first thing we notice is this FFFFF, and the translation for that is unlimited approval, right? When you see the FFF, that's basically saying that we are giving, and that you can also see it on here, 1.15 times 10 to the 59th power. So every ENS token in existence, we're giving it. MetaMask is prompting us to give infinite permission for this token, and that is something that we don't want to do. So we're going to click edit.
You want to change that
and change the custom spend limit to 1 token, which is what we want to sell here. And click save. And now we see that this data has changed. And if we were to go into a hexadecimal converter, we would see that this is basically 1 token, right? And if we wanted to be super paranoid, we could double check that.
You will see that that's 1 token with 18 decimals because that's what the token looks like. And you want to remember that you are using the ENS contract, where you see on the target. The ENS contract, you're querying the ENS contract to give your allowance to another contract. The contract that you're giving this one ENS allowance to is this 0xD9E1C. And in order to do that, you're going to be actually sending a transaction to the ENS contract. And that's not super easy to pick up here from the information we have. But that's the target that is actually going to be queried when you sign this transaction.
So this is the SushiSwap router contract, which we can see here, but it's actually sending something to the ENS contract, correct?
Yeah, so if you look at that data, that's the raw hexadecimal data. That's going to be packaged up and sent to the ENS contract. The ENS contract will receive that raw data, and it's going to figure out that it's calling the approve function, which you can see in the line below data. You see function approve. If you were to take approve and convert it to hexadecimal, that's the numbers you're going to get, 095EA7B3. And you could verify that manually. I can send you a link if you want to do that. And but forevermore, every time you run an approve, that's the same set of letters and numbers that you're going to see every time you do an approval, because every function to approve is called approve. It has the same name. And if it has the same name, it's going to have the same function selector, which basically means that that's the code to say that you want to do an approve. You're going to do the approve for the address 9E1CE, which means that they receive this allowance, they receive this approval for the specified amount, which you just set to 1 ENS.
All right, so we've checked this, we've set the amount, we're ready to confirm, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and confirm. And remember that the second you confirm, you're signing that transaction, which means that you're taking that data that you saw and you're basically using your private key to confirm that you actually want that to happen and that to be executed. Let's open up MetaMask again. We should see a loading message. It means that your transaction is being propagated on chain. Based on your gas fee, it will eventually be mined. And let's see the MetaMask loading. Did something go wrong?
Yeah, so we were talking about this yesterday. when I clicked approve, I got an error on my hardware wallet saying blind signing must be activated.
Blind signing must be activated? All right.
Yep.
Is that the idea that you don't check the hexadecimal?
I guess. I don't know.
I've never heard of that. Let's see. This only happens. So I'm Googling this error. Blind signing must be enabled in settings using Metamask. The only happen after recent update. Subreddits, blah, blah, blah. They enable contract data to enable blind signing. It must be set not just with Metamask, but anytime you're transferring ERC20 tokens or interacting with smart contracts. The option was previously called contract data. You have to enable it to sign unknown contracts which cannot be verified by an Ethereum application plugin yet. So what I'm understanding is that blind signing is a protection feature of a hardware wallet that checks the contract against a known list of contracts, and it will show you like some sort of interpretation. Mm-hmm. However, once you enable blind signing, you're gonna allow the ability to sign any type of contract. So in a way, when you enable blind signing, it's basically ape mode. You have to trust the data that you see on MetaMask.
Yep.
Because you have to, that's where you're gonna look at it, basically. I would assume that the hardware wallet will still show you the data that you're signing on the screen, if there is a screen. And I highly recommend that you have a hardware wallet that allows you to verify that, because there are instances of attacks where the thing you see on MetaMask looks fine, but the thing that you see on the hardware wallet is different, and you end up, whatever you sign is whatever happens. So you definitely want to make sure that the device is going to be signing exactly what you're being presented here, which is approve, address, amount.
Yeah,
okay?
I do remember on my wallet, I guess before some updates, it was showing me the whole code, right? And I would have to click through several screens to approve that code. But then recently it's been asking me for this blind signing. So guess it's time to get a new wallet.
I would highly recommend getting a new wallet. If you have a wallet that doesn't force you to check the chain, check the data, it's probably not that good of a wallet, to be honest. Because you're buying that for your security. You're not buying that to make things fast. It's literally the opposite. So I highly recommend you get a wallet that shows you the transaction data, and it forces you to verify that to make sure that you're not signing something that is sketchy.
Okay. So I guess for the purposes of this video, we'll go ahead with this.
Yeah, we also have a sketchy MetaMask glitch where you set the approval to 1, but because we resetted the UI, we actually go back to full approval. So we have to reset it back. And that's, again, a sign of cautious. You have to really be cautious in checking that data right there is the one that you would expect, because it may actually change abruptly, as you just saw.
Yep. All right. So this looks good now.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Yeah. So with blind signing, I'm getting a warning that says blind signing, and then it's giving me the OXC1 address, which is the ENS token contract, and then max fees. And then I'm going to ape mode this.
Yeah. So as you just said, the hardware wallet should present you with two important features. One is called, or two important data fields. The first one is going to be called the target. Target means the destination, the contract you're talking to, which should be the ENS contract. So if we check 0xC1836, that's the ENS token that we are targeting. Mm-hmm. And then if you scroll down on Etherscan, and you go way down, you should see some additional info by clicking on click to see more, the blue button, and that should allow you to see the data that was sent, which if you are like a visual person, you should recognize the shape a little bit. There's the 095 EA, which is the signature for the function approve, mm-hmm. and then there's the two parameters, the address, the D9E1CE, and lastly, that value, which used to be FFF, and now has been changed to basically 1, which is D0, B6, etc. So that's the same data you signed. That's the data that Ethereum is using. So it's not there by coincidence. It's a one-to-one mapping between what you were doing, your intentions, and what you actually did. So now you have the confirmation that what were promised and what you signed is exactly what went on chain as well.
Yep. And this is a much nicer way to read it rather than everything smushed together.
Yeah, Etherscan really knows their UI. And the last thing I want to notice is that, if you're starting to be paranoid about signing stuff, which you should, but it's important that you notice that whatever data you're about to sign, that's the data that your signature is going to correspond to. So that means that if the data for the transaction is changed after you sign, then the transaction is going to be invalid because you can't fake a signature. That's why every type of attack will always end up happening with modifying what you're signing, because no exploiter can sign for you, but they can change what you're about to sign so that you end up doing something that you didn't think you were doing. You basically get deceived at that point. Okay?
Got it.
Yeah. So now the transaction is done. And since this is a allowance increasing transaction called approve, the next step will be to verify that this happened. So we could keep the transaction tab open, and then we could open in a new tab the ENS token contract, which you have right there in the to field. You can open in a new tab. And now we can verify on chain that the approval was correct. The way to do that is you are presented a contract page. This is a typical token page. You'll see token tracker on the right, contract on the top left. And if you are on the token tracker page, go ahead and click it. The token tracker page is the one for traders, basically. You see the holders, you see the trades, you see the some information more for traders. While if you want to go in the developer mode of it, you're going to click on contract on the right, on profile summary contract, and now you'll be offered the contract page for the token, which allows you to interact with it as a smart contract.
Sorry,
on this one? I'm referring to the tab on the right. Let's go back to the ENS token tracker page.
Yep. If I go here.
So you see the left side is all market cap stuff. The right side is all nerd stuff. There's a contract there. If you click the URL, it's going to send you to the contract page for the contract. So you see contract, then the address. The address maps out to be the same that you interacted with, because a token is a contract. So it's just that as a person, you will think about it in a different concept, right? A token as a trader, as a protocol, a governance tool. But now we're talking about it as a smart contract. And now we're in the contract page. You can click on the contract tab, the one with the green check mark. And that will allow you, because the contract is verified, it will allow you to interact with the contract directly. So now you're using Ethereum as close as you can get. You can go in the read contract tab. Obviously, you can read the entire thing if you want, but in the read contract tab, you can do what are called view methods that allow you to verify stuff. And then you have this number 2, allowance. Allowance is basically going to be a mapping between an owner, which is going to be you, and a spender, which is going to be the contract that you approved, the SushiSwap router. And if you provide these fields, if you provide that information to the contract will tell you how much the spender can spend from you. So to get started, you will put your owner address, which you can just copy from there. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you will put the spender, which is the one we approved. It will be the SushiSwap router. So we can go back to the transaction and check. Basically, it will be the SushiSwap router. So scroll up, you see transaction actions. You see that it says ENS for trade on SushiSwap router. Mm-hmm. This is because Etherscan is already understanding what's going on. And so it's giving you an interpretation. And so it's giving you this address, which is the one you already verified.
So it would be this one.
Yep, that's the address. So now you can go on the ENS contract and then paste that in, and then you can query. And this should return 1 with 18 decimals, which is the allowance that you gave moments ago.
Wow. So is there a way
Right.
to actually see, is there a page where you can see that the whole list of everyone's addresses that has approved it, or you have to use this UI?
Yeah. So that's kind of the problem with Ethereum, or I guess the feature of it is that in order for you to know everyone that interacted with it, you would have to go through the entire history of the contract. So there are tools. One of them, Dbank, Etherscan, I think maybe even Zapper, they offer these allowance checkers for yourself. But the way they work is they literally go through the entire history of Ethereum from when the token was deployed, and they see what you've done. And so it is basically more of a personal responsibility situation, because imagine having to go through every single possible address on Earth. It's just going to be insane.
Yeah.
And so there are ways to do it. If you're a developer, you should check the graph. It's called the graph. There's a token, GRT. The graph will allow you to set up some sort of a tool for that. But that said, this is a way for you to know exactly what your allowance given a spender is at this time.
So when you go to Etherscan and you put in your own address and it shows you your history of transactions, is there that same chance that transactions may have been missed if it's with a contract that they didn't know about, or is it always going to be on there?
Yeah, I will say that given the maturity of Etherscan, it will be highly unlikely that a transaction is not there. But it will be highly likely that a transaction is not on Metamask. Because let's say you end up giving your seed phrase to one of these, Metamask support scammers on Twitter. Metamask will only show you the transactions that you did on your own device. And so if you have your address on multiple devices, you will not be able to see them. But for Etherscan, I would be surprised if they missed a transaction. I wouldn't be surprised if they missed an approval, but I would be surprised if they missed a transaction, because they are ordered by nonce. And as such, you should just see the list of every single sequential transaction that happened very reliably. And it can happen, I guess, but I've never seen that happen, to be honest.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, if you're very, very serious, you will go back on Etherscan and then go into transactions. You search for the selector we just spoke about, the approve selector. Etherscan should be labeling as approve. And you should be able to find every single approval you ever gave in your life. And then you can do the method we just showed of going on the contract address to verify if that approval is still there, right? As you can see, your last transaction is disapproved, and it's called approve, right?
Yep. Cool.
So that's a utility that Etherscan gives you. If you wanted to be extra cautious, you would also use the selector for the function, which was the hexadecimal code for specifying approve.
Got it. So let's carry on. So we've checked the SushiSwap router contract, we've given the approval, and now we're back here to make our swap at Sushi. Is there anything we need to know?
The UI has changed.
Yep.
Right? You see swap. If you were offered a approve at this time, you should be highly skeptical, because approvals may end up summing up. Although if you call approve, it won't sum up the approval. It will just set it to that amount. But basically, you will be highly skeptical of getting a second approved transaction. You will now expect to get a transaction for swapping. The name is going to be very technical. It should be, I think, swap exact amount in for amount out.
Yep.
So it should be like a weird, nerdy name. However, you don't want to see anything related to approval at this point. So you're going to continue with the interface until you're offered the details on the UI, on MetaMask. Right? So we see a lot of stuff. First of all, we're seeing the top left and the top right. These are really useful information. Top left is you, dig snapshot, that's the name of your account.
Yep.
And the right side is D9E8BF. That's the target. That's the target you're going to be querying. So in our case, this should also match with the address that you gave your allowance to, because you gave allowance to it so that you can then use it. It just makes sense that there is a correspondence there. But basically, this is the contract that you're going to be interacting with. That's going to be your target.
And this is the same
Sushi
Swap router contract, right?
Yeah, and you should verify that. It would be a good idea to do so, because that's the basically the address you offered. You could do a quick Command F or paste or that kind of stuff, and it should match exactly. It's the same address.
Yep.
Right? Amazing. So that's good. That's a good sign. It means that the UI didn't deceive you at that point. Let's go back to MetaMask. The next information you're offered is the website. That information is kind of useless. I mean, it's kind of useless, you know?
Yep.
But I guess you will want to know which website originated the request. Then you have the name of the function. This is a utility that MetaMask offers you. It tells you that this is what they are calling. It's called swap exact tokens for ETH, which means that you're going to send your token and get back some ETH.
Yep.
That kind of checks out. And then we have some details about spending gas, which we really, it's really not particularly interesting at a security level. We have the data tab. That's the tab we want to check. And so this is being interpreted, actually. This may be the new feature from MetaMask that they launched very recently. They're giving you a interpretation of it. As you can see, we have function type swap exact tokens for ETH that matches. And then we have some inputs. The inputs is the amount in, which is 1 ENS. And basically you see the 1 with 18 zeros.
Yep.
And then you have some amount out min, which is going to be the amount in Ethereum. If you want to check it as a trader, you will definitely check some price and see if there's like a slippage or a price that is okay. But as a programmer or as a security-minded individual, let's go in the hex tab, the other one, and let's see what the data looks like. We see that this is the function. These are the inputs for the function. So we expect a function that looks scary, basically, because you can see that there's a list of stuff. uint 256, uint address, uint. Let's scroll down to see what we get. Yeah. So this is a scary operation, right? What is this? Right? Is this am I gonna lose my keys? Am I gonna lose my house? I mean, you could, but fundamentally, the principles are the same as the approved transaction. The first thing on the top left, 18CBAFE5, that's the selector for the function. That's saying call the function swapped exact tokens for ETH. Mm-hmm. And then you see a bunch of zeros. We call that padding. It's just padding zeros to make the numbers align, because they need to be 32 bits, but it's basically just padding. And then you have some information, and these are going to be a list of addresses and a list of numbers. If you want to interpret that, you can scroll up and see again that the function, scroll up a little bit, the function receives this set of parameters, a uint 256, another uint 256, then a list of addresses, and lastly one address. That's basically what the inputs are. And so you could want to try and match them. I think to go past this point will require to actually understand the contracts. So I can understand that being excessive. That said, you can verify that the selector for swapping exact tokens is that one. And one way of doing that will be to use a tool, which I can send you, I guess. I'll send you the tool right now.
All right.
And another way will be to use a different products, let's say Uniswap, and check that the signature is the same. So I sent you the tool, Wasabi, and this tool basically receives the name of the function. So you would just copy the name of the function, which was swap exact swap exact tokens for ETH.
So just from right here?
You probably want to do it from data or hex, because that's not how it's typed. This is also not how it's typed. Let's go on hex.
So like this code?
Yeah, so we don't have the raw name. Let's go in the contract. I'll show you how to get it. But yeah, I think we're at the point where this is going to get a little too difficult, because we're not offered the real name of the function. So go in the contract on Etherscan. I'll show you how to
the
find
Sushi
that and
Swap
verify it.
router contract.
Yep, we're in the Sushi Swap router. Go in contract. There's going to be a search thing on the right. You see search source code on the top right. Put the thingy and type swap exact without spaces. Swap exact. Go ahead and press the enter or the down arrow to get the next result. We have if for tokens. That's not the one. Keep searching.
Swap exact tokens.
Swap exact tokens for if.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So now you not only know the name, but you can also understand what these numbers are, right? Amount in, that's the amount you're sending. Amount out min, that's the slippage check. Call data path, that's too much. Let's say we're not gonna tell you what that is, but it's the routing for the swap. And then we have the address to, and lastly the deadline. So who gets the funds at the end, and who gets how long this order is gonna be working until it expires. It's definitely a lot more complicated than the approve function, but to verify that the data is correct, you can just copy the name, and the simple way to copy is double click.
Just this one?
And then Command C. Yeah, you can copy, and then go on the tool, and no, actually you'll need to put the inputs as well. So copy the entire function, line 278, the entire thing. Yep. And then paste it in the box for the tool. And I think the tool will figure it out for you. Yeah. So this is what we got. 59E63DA1. Let's remove the spaces at the beginning, please. And also the function. I think you don't want the name function either. The first thing, yeah. Swap. So this should be signature. Let's see if it matches.
This should match the Metamask approval.
Yes. That should match the X, the first few lines. We got 18CBAFE. See what we got on the right side. It doesn't match, right?
Yep.
So we should be extremely worried, right? Because it literally doesn't match.
So this.
So now
is
we
not
can get
matching,
into the details as to why, but it definitely is not matching.
Yep.
So I think it's because we have the names of the parameters. Let's delete the name of the parameters. Amount in, amount out min.
So starting with the parentheses.
Yep. So you have uint. No, keep uint and delete amount in. Yep. Because basically you have a parameter type and then a parameter name.
Yep.
The type is the first word, and then there's a space, and then you have the parameter name. The second parameter name is amount out min. Delete that one as well. The next one is an address square bracket. That's the type. It's a list of addresses. Delete everything else. Call data tells you where in memory it is. It's a gas optimization, and path is the name of the parameter. Just delete both. Delete call data and path. And then same thing for address. Address is the type, and to is the name. So delete the name too. And lastly, address we do need. Address is a valid parameter type.
Okay. Yeah, address is here. Yeah.
No, that's address square bracket. It's the previous parameter, so undo. Now you see that you have comma, space, address, and then you add the space to, TO. The 2 can be deleted because that's the name. And then the last one is going to be the deadline, so just delete deadline. Keep uint, delete deadline. Okay, let's see if it changes by removing the spaces. It does.
Yep.
And let's change the uint to uint 256.
This one or all of them?
Everyone, all three. Because as you can see, the number below is always changing.
This is just
because what it's doing is it's taking the hash of the string that you're putting in. Okay, so I think that's it. Let's see what we got on MetaMask. No, still not it. So this is the point where you wouldn't run the transaction because it factually doesn't match with what you would expect, right? So if I was presented this information, I would be extremely worried because it means that I'm being deceived. Okay, we can get into the details of why, and maybe we can spend some time debugging it. But this is where you just wouldn't trust what you got, because you tried the address is the correct one, you checked the function selector, and it doesn't match. That means that something sketchy could happen at that point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
You have to agree with me that the evidence is against us running the trade, because it seems like we're not gonna do what we are promised to do from the interface, right?
So did we just earn a bug bounty from Sushi on this call?
I don't think so, because most likely there's an explanation as to why this is not working. So I'm gonna try and quickly debug it on my own end. Swap exact, and it probably is the tool that is wrong. A simple way to figure that out will be to go in the Sushi transactions and then find a swap exact token for ETH and see what the selector there looks like. I found the first transaction I found is for like a home swap on the Etherscan transaction, and I can see that the selector here is 0x18CBAFE5.
Yep, this is the matches here.
Yeah, which ends up matching with that one. So this is one of those situations where I would recommend not to pull the trigger, because the tool we have to verify, basically our eyes are telling us that this is wrong, right? Because that's what's happening. Like there's dissonance between what we think we're doing and what we are actually doing. But in this case, I believe it's the tool that is giving us a wrong result. It's not a issue with the SushiSwap website. That said, let me see what I can do to investigate that. So it definitely is the wrong value here. Yeah, I would say my tool that I found is just wrong. I'll have to look for another one. I have like a Visual Studio extension that helps you do that. But yeah, so what I will do if I didn't understand this code is I wouldn't pull the trigger, I wouldn't run the swap, and I would try and seek help from the developers. I would show them the call data and be like, why is this not matching? And I would expect a very specific and thorough explanation and proof that you can actually get this 18CBAFE from the selector. I think if I go on my Visual Studio Code and I create a new file and I put the interface for it, I can mimic that. Let me see if I can do it. All right, funcsig, and I get 18CBAFE5. Which I think is the one that we were expecting.
Yep, that's in here.
And if you paste this exact line in the tool, you will also get the same result. So I sent you a line on Discord, which is the name. It's uwin256.
This one.
Yeah, I basically sent you the swap exact tokens, that line right there. Copy it without spaces, and that way you can verify that the function selector will work and you'll get the exact one you would expect.
Yep.
As to why we struggled, I think it's a space issue. If you have any space, any typo, this tool is really sensitive. While the one I have on my developer tool, which is built by consensus, is a little more flexible, and so it allows me to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, there are no spaces in the one we were trying. There were spaces in between after the commas.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so this is the unfortunate reality of these crappy tools. Maybe I'll build a better one this weekend. It's like a 1 hour project, so it shouldn't be an issue. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing was we looked at facts, which is that the signature wasn't correct. And then you would literally not pull the trigger because you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's probably a bad idea to do it. And then you will verify with the developer, and I gave you proof of how to get the exact result that you would expect. Because now I verified it, and you can trust me, but you shouldn't. And then I can send you this line, which looks exactly the same. It just doesn't have the spaces. And you can verify that it's the same thing and it should match, and it does match on MetaMask as well.
Is there...
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Is there a way to go in reverse? Is there a way to take this and translate it into the function?
I think there are what are called tables that give you given the hash, they give you either collisions or they give you the names. But I don't think I ever found one from function selector to function name solidity, because this will be a list of known selectors. So to give you an idea, that means that I will go like on GitHub, I will have to use the GitHub API, get every single contract I can, and then make a giant list of every single function, and given every single function, get the selector back. And then given the selector, I would need to allow you to do the opposite operation. I know it can be done. I don't think anybody has ever did it in the space, but it definitely will be a good public goods tool.
Yeah, because this is, you said it was a hash, right? So there's some encryption algorithm that takes this, and this is the output of that. And the idea is like without knowing in like a dictionary lookup, you could not get using computation back to this, right? It would have to be done through just brute force.
Yes, and it will have to be done through brute force and or through accessing these type of tables. And the beauty of the selector is that I believe it does give you a security guarantee in that there are selectors that could collide. Basically, you can have a different function name with the same selector. That would be a way for you to sign something you don't want. But I believe the EVM will actually reject a contract in that way. So the selector is always basically a guarantee that you're signing, or rather, given a selector, the contract can only have one. But given a name and a set of inputs, you can actually have a lot of these type of inputs that will give you back the same hexadecimal selector. So there can be collisions where you have multiple names that give you back the same hexadecimal, but given one hexadecimal and one contract, that hexadecimal always only means one thing.
Okay, got it.
So what I'm really telling you is that what we did of checking, we actually did two things, and that's what you will want to do as a non-technical person. You will want to check the selector, which is this step here that is fairly complex. And then the first step will be you will want to verify that the function exists in the contract. That's the first step. You will go in Etherscan, click on contract, use the search box, and type a few letters of the function that Metamask is suggesting, which was swap exact.
Yep.
And you will try and find it. Once you do find it, now you know that selector, if you can verify the selector, that selector can only be used for that function because you can't have a collision of selectors. But if you don't verify that the function is there, then you could actually have a different contract with a function that has a different name and a different set of inputs that has the same selector. And so you do need to verify that function exists in the given contract.
So we want to know, and generally, does this function exist in the contract that we're signing? And we go back,
exactly.
We're looking in Etherscan at this contract, then we're searching for basically like some keywords, maybe there's some spaces taken out, but looking for this here. And then we could use a tool like this to make sure that the hexadecimal for that function is actually coming through in the raw data that we're sending through MetaMask.
Yes. And if you want to take it one extra step further, because I've just came up with like an exploit, or I guess an attack that the exploiter could do, which will be to put the function but then never define it. Then what you will want to do in the contract page of Etherscan is to search for this function again until you find one that actually has a body. Because if you look at the function we have in front of us, it just has the name, right? There's only the name and there's nothing else. This will be called an interface. This is defining that the function exists, but it's not defining what it does. Mm-hmm. What you could do is you could go back on Etherscan and keep searching by using the down arrow in the input box. and you should be able to find the actual code for it. Could keep going. This is still an interface. Go back, the third one I think it was. Keep going. One more.
Down or up?
No, the search is fine.
But, yeah.
You just want to find, yeah, scroll down a little bit. Well, this is actually a different function. If you look at this, it's called swap exact tokens for ETH supporting on fee. Keep going. One more. There you go. Swap exact tokens for ETH.
Yep.
Scroll down a little bit. So obviously this becomes, a magnitude more complicated. But now, in spite of it all, you not only have proof that the selector is correct, but you have proof that this function is actually implemented. And so you should have a lot more certainty about what's going on. And if you read through the code, something you probably could look into will be the safe transfer from, line 684. Safe transfer from is literally telling this contract to take your money, because that's what a router does. It takes your money, it swaps, and gives you back something else. Mm-hmm. So those are transfer from, safe transfer from. That's the keyword you want to be looking for when you want to think of your money moving out of your wallet. And the approve function that we signed before, that's how this contract is able to do it. Because once you give them approval, they can actually transfer from your wallet.
Got it. So someone non-technical could go through, find this exact function and look, take something like this and Google it, and they would find some Solidity docs, and they would see that this is, maybe they would find the Uniswap docs, or they'd find more SushiSwap docs, and they would see that this is directionally what it should be doing.
Yeah, they would, I think in terms of fully non-technical, you want to verify that the function is there, right? We found it. There is a function and it has a body. There is stuff in there. We don't need to know what it is, but it exists. And then the second thing is you want to verify that given this function, you can get the selector that is the selector for this function. Because otherwise, the website may be deceiving you. If you can't prove the selector, then the website may be trying to make you do something else.
Got it. So are we ready to sell this token? Or is there anything else we need to check first?
I'd say at this point we confirm the target, we confirm the selector, and we are trusting the UI for doing math. This is where a trader may want to do extra checks, because you're trusting that the slippage math is correct or at least reasonable, and you're trusting that the trade is not going to wreck you. So there are still some trust assumptions that you're having, but it's it's a swap. It's going to do it. It's the right selector. It's the right target. They can only do it for exactly one. So I will say you have a high degree of confidence that you're going to do exactly what advertised, and it should be completely fine to confirm.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And so since we've only approved it for one token, if we were to put in 2 ENS, it would kick us back to another approval, right? It would want that additional approval.
Yes. It would not be able to execute the operation.
Got it. Okay. So let's ape mode this.
All right. The transaction went through. Let's see it on Etherscan. Basically, we have the usual stuff. Transaction hash from to. From should be you. To should be the Uniswap router. And the SushiSwap router, my bad. And then in terms of the data, which you should see at the bottom of this, and click to see more, you should be able to see again the same selector that we spent so much time trying to verify, right? 18CBAFE5, that's there. And then there is all of that additional data that is a little more complicated to go through. But at the end of the day, it's specifying the amount that you want in, which is the B6, B3A, the most people with the highest attention to detail will recognize that one because that's the same one that you approved. It's always 1 with 18 decimals. And then the other values are just the amount out, how to execute the swap, and the deadline for it. Basically the other parameters.
And this would go to, so like 0, this is the first piece of data, right? This is swap exact for ETH. Yeah.
1.8, that's the name, exactly.
And
then line by line,
yep,
each one of them is an input parameter.
So this should be 1. This should translate to 1 ENS, right?
Yes, that's the one.
Amount in.
The second one is the amount of ether you want, which was 0.01 ether.
Yep.
And then the third parameter should be the path. The path is can be a little more complicated. I think the path chosen here is through WEF. So I'm assuming that's the symbol for WEF. And then but basically specifies how to swap the ENS and for what, because you can have multiple swaps per transaction. And then going forward, you should have a destination address. So you should find your own address around there. I think it's C18360. So that's going to be your address. And then you're going to have the last input, which is the deadline, which is just a number to represent how long the order can be executed for. And that's just a way to avoid having very old orders being executed when you're doing any type of swap on chain.
All right. So then obviously the way to confirm this would be to just click on your address back in Etherscan and you would see that transaction has gone through.
Yeah, you will see that transaction there. You are seeing the Etherscan interpretation of what happened, sushi swap for blah, blah, blah. You can go deeper by checking all the buttons at the top. You see the logs, the state, that kind of stuff. It's probably a little too much, but at the end of the day, all you should see there is a bunch of transfers because that's what happened. You transferred your funds, or rather the router transferred your funds from you to themselves, to the router, and then the router swapped those funds for ETH, and then it sent the ETH to you. So that's basically what happened, the free operation that did happen. And so you should be able to confirm that you have the new balance of ETH. And additionally, which is the most important part in terms of security, you should be able to verify that your allowance for the ENS token to be used by the SushiSwap router was changed. So if we open a new tab for the ENS token, I can see it on the right, you already have it. We should be able to go on the contract again, contract tab, and then on read contract, you will have the allowance option, the second option. The owner is going to be your address. Paste in your Metamask address.
Yep.
And then the spender will be the SushiSwap router, which you can get from a myriad of options. There should be a way to, there's a button to copy paste right there on the right. And you can paste that. And since you used the entire allowance, the router has used it, you would expect a 0 there. Anything else that is not a 0 would be scary. But now it's 0. That means that the router, let's say tomorrow the router activates exploit mode when it can steal everybody's money. The router still couldn't be able to access your funds because the allowance for that token is set to 0. So even if the router, which it's never going to happen, but even if the router had the possibility of literally taking everybody's funds at any time, the fact that your allowance is set to 0 for the router means that the router literally cannot move anything that you own. You literally cannot move any ENS. The problem again is that you have to verify it at a token by token contract level. So for each token you ever use, you do need to get into the habit of checking the allowances against the contract you're using. So I understand it gets a little overwhelming, but this is literally the only way to prove that the SushiSwap router cannot rug you, because they literally cannot, even if they wanted to.
Yeah. So that's something I think I didn't know before. It was when you set an allowance, that is a one-time thing, right? So if I give it 10 tokens of permission, then once I've done those 10, so say I do 5, then if I set it, this should return 5, right? Because there's 5 left. Is that correct?
Exactly. If you approve for 5, and by the way, you can approve in the right contract tab,
Yep.
just like you can revoke in the right contract tab. I can show you that. The thing you want to notice about the statement though is if you set the allowance to max, most tokens are coded to not reduce your allowance. If you set it to the number, the size of the universe, the 51 zeros, you basically gave everything until you manually revoke it.
Got it.
Okay? It's very important that you understand that a number, a limited number, a small number, could be 1 million, 10 million, but it's still a small number compared to the universe. That one is gonna reduce over time. So maybe, let's say every month you have like a couple thousand USDC that you wanna sell for ETH. Maybe you do give the allowance to 2,000 USDC, even though you're gonna spend 100 today, because who cares? But that means that every month your allowance goes back to 0, right? While if you end up setting it to FFFFF, that will never go to 0. It will always be everything you have available at that time.
Got it.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. So we've done a swap. When you, Alex, are doing Ethereum transactions on a day-to-day basis, when you're aping in and out of stuff, how much of this do you do, or do you think would be reasonable for someone to just do as like a basic security hygiene? Like, are you going through these every time, or what would be like is there kind of like an 80-20 of things that you see, or do you adjust it? Like you do something different on Sushi versus like the newest Ohm fork that's just come out? Like what are some kind of like practical steps that you take in your daily usage?
Yeah, I think it's, there's always like the diplomatic answer and then there's the more realistic answer. So what I will say is that the first time you interact with something, you basically want to go through this. And I'm serious. Like, I guess the most recent example would be something like CowSwap or the ENS claiming contract. When you're going through something that is new, you want to go through literally every single of these steps because you don't know what the contract is going to do. You have no idea. The contract is new. It could have a lot of, just like you wouldn't take, these phishing tokens and just use them. Why would you use a trusted token? Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe one of the developers is a exploiter anyway. So I would, and I do go through all of this stuff. And so to be honest, I lose on a bunch of opportunities because I do this because I do. So I literally, if the contract is not verified, I'm not going to ape. If they don't have a multisig, I'm not going to ape. If there's a lot of functionality that are governed by the contract owner, I will not ape. If there's a mint function on the token, I'm not going to ape. So there's a lot of ways for me to basically just veto because I do go through the list the first time. And even for like CowSwap, something that you would be like, CowSwap is like super legit. Noses are on top of their game. I will still go through every item in the checklist. But after using it a few times, I think I would start to set allowances for certain tokens, especially if it's a token that I know I'm going to just always dump. So I can see myself getting a little more lenient over time. Especially with very well-known contracts that are not upgradable. So one of them being the SushiSwap router or the Uniswap V2 router, the curve pools. Those contracts, I would recommend the first time always setting the allowance, especially on sidechains. It costs nothing to do. So on sidechains, you can even go even higher with a higher degree of security and just wait 10 extra seconds for the allowance every time. I'm thinking like even Arbitrum. On Arbitrum, confirmation time is literally half a second. So always do the allowance. Why not? But I can see over time being a little more lenient with very well-known products. But every time I'm offered an allowance check, that's when every flag goes red because you should know, basically, just like you will know roughly what your, the balance of your wallet, or what you have in your pocket. You should roughly know what your approvals are looking like. And so I have times where I will revoke contracts that I haven't used for months, not because they tell me on Twitter, but literally because I'm just I just thought about them. I'm like, no, I'm gonna revoke the allowance because this may go wrong or that may go wrong. I guess a big example would be the gelato exploit or the DYDX exploits.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff that you never know until it happens. But if you do 2+2 and you think about every deposit proxy or this type of contracts, then you should kind of have some sort of warning for disabling them. So to make a long story short, I always start with this level of paranoia, and that makes me miss opportunities, and I don't care. I'm fine. And then over time, I will give more leniency to contracts that are completely immutable. So it means that they can't be changed at all. And that I've basically used so much that I'm just, massively tired of doing this process. But to be honest, I have never found a time where I regretted paying, $50 extra for gas. But I did find times where I regretted giving too much allowance or, aping too much. So I would recommend extreme cautious and deliberacy in your actions. At the end of the day, you're saving 1 minute, but you're putting your net worth at risk by saving 1 minute. So is it really worth it? I don't think it's worth it.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end it here. So we've gone through an entire swap on a Sushi, kind of a reputable blue chip project. What should we do for the next issue? I mean, I've got a couple ideas. So maybe one thing would be someone they have a DeFi summer wallet like myself, and probably has a bunch of sketchy things hanging out there. How to do maybe a cleanup of your wallet, or maybe how to do checks on a completely new project that's just launching, that may not be as well documented as something like Sushi. I don't know. What do you think would be the most helpful for the next one of these?
Yeah, I'd say if you're listening at this point, you've earned the right to tell us. So make sure to drop a comment or DM us or put it on Twitter. I think again, if you're listening to this point, you've earned it. So we'll do whatever you tell us. But that said, it may be a great idea to go through old approvals and see what we can do to basically mitigate potential exploits there. See how much funds were at risk factually, and just basically clean up a messy address. That sounds great. And then the other option is to go through a few protocols and do some due diligence. Again, if you're listening, if you have a specific idea of a protocol you would want us to do some due diligence, that may be a great idea. And we can put it in the context of yield farming. So how to evaluate like a yield farming opportunity very seriously. That sounds like something that can be both practical and at the same time still in line with the idea of doing things consciously.
Let's do this. So if you're still listening to this after we've been talking about this for an hour and a half, Alex, give us some alpha. What are some projects you're aping into now that you've done all these checks? What are you excited about? What are you interested in these days? Got anything for the long haul listeners here who are still with us? Yeah. I mean, I would say it has been kind of a stale period where most stuff is just forks of forks. And so the biggest opportunities were in like, inflationary tokens on new chains. I'm thinking something like Geist or the usual copy paste of Cream and Compound, that kind of stuff. I guess I'll drop one that I wasn't able to break. This is only for true degenerates though. I've been doing due diligence on this project for like 3 months, and I still wasn't able to break it, but it's built by one person. So it's probably the riskiest investment you can ever make. But I also think it has insane upside, and it's called Complify, and it's comfy. It's like not even in the top 2,000 coins. Mm-hmm. It's like super shit coin, mm-hmm. But it's leverage farming. No, it's leverage
without liquidations. And so it's like a different twist on leverage. It means that you can use it to short tokens you own to reduce your risk, which is what I did during Matic's or Polygon's bear market. I will just short Matic while still LPing it on SushiSwap. And it basically allows you to survive the winter while hedging your risk. It is an insanely risky play, for sure. Like you can see, it has no TVL, very little. But the product actually works, and I've been spending months trying to hack it. And as in reading every single line of code, trying to grief it, trying to steal funds and stuff. I still wasn't able to do it. And it's been months that I've been using it. So this is to me one of those projects where it's insanely high risk. It is, because the guy maybe just go nuts and he steals everything. But at the same time, I read all the code. So I think it's one of those investments where it's fairly safe to do.
So you're buying options on it, or what are you have Matic and then you're hedging your downside on Matic?
Yeah, I'll show you the strat. Go ahead and click confirm.
Do I need to turn on my VPN here?
I don't know actually, but I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. It's probably like a cookie, so whatever. But basically, if you go and invest, you'll see that there's these 5x tokens. I think he wants you to go on Polygon. Not sure if you have it. But basically, you can buy these tokens that go from $0 to $2. And that's the only price they can go to. That means that if Matic goes down by 50%, the short token will be worth $2 and the long token will be worth 0. And so the worst case for you is you lose the capital you put in.
Yep.
But the best case is you buy the token at very cheap, like at 10 cents, and then the tokens can go up to $2 within 15 days because that's how the options expire. It's kind of a variant on the fixed product market maker, and but basically it's like a really smart idea to avoid the liquidations. And you can pair this up with the idea of providing liquidity on Sushi. USDC Matic used to be one of the biggest pairs on SushiSwap on Polygon.
Yep.
And so if you LP that, obviously you're gonna get Matic when people are dumping, and you're gonna get dollars when Matic is pumping. So you actually get kind of a bad deal if you're long Matic. But if you're long Matic and Matic is going through a downturn, you actually are gonna get more Matic over time. And then what you can do is you can use the fees in profit, which let's say it's like $1,000 a month, to short Matic. And if you short Matic with $1,000, you can make up to maybe 5K if you're really lucky. But let's say you make 20%, 30% on those dollars, so $200 every 2 weeks. And so that basically allows you to hedge against the impermanent loss so that you're net neutrally farming the swapping fee for Matic. So over time, you're going to have more Matic. Your dollar position is increasing as well, which means that even though Matic is losing value, because Matic was at $2.30 back in March, and then it went down to like $1.20. Like it really went, I think it went to 80 cents. But imagine losing all of that money. But if you hedge it through LPing and shorting it, you actually end up having more Matic at the end, more dollars at the end, and you just sleep comfy. So that's why comfy is like my secret weapon for hedging.
So if you're in a stablecoin Matic, you're using this to hedge the downside of Matic, so you're just purely getting those swap fees.
Exactly. It allows you to be in a position that is a lot more neutral, and it allows to reduce your risk while still getting APYs that are not tokens. So you know they're paid in the same asset. So it's less risk than doing a leverage farm of a new token that may go to 0 or whatever. And I think everybody at this point knows those type of strategies. So this is a little more nuanced. And this is like a protocol where it's like the token is $1. So, and it was like a lot more. It got completely destroyed by its own investors, but the founder never quit. I know there's like 2 people, so it's a really small project. They never quit during the bear market. They never quit while everybody was dumping their token. So I really, really, really believe in this project. Again, because I read the code and I think they're super smart. So this is the alpha.
There you have it. I've never heard of them. Thanks for sharing that. When Alex paid group?
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever do it. We'll do public strategies. So if you like the alpha, just go on badger.com the second we unpause, which will happen in a couple hours, and expect a lot of strategies with the same level of thought and thoroughness. We do a lot of due diligence. I think that may be a good idea to also share a little bit of how we do due diligence at Badger, the idea for the next video. But yeah, if you appreciate the alpha, just go and buy Badger. Use Badger, and you'll see that the alpha goes always there. That's where we are funneling it.
Awesome. Well, that was not at all financial advice for anyone who made it this far, but thanks for listening. I think this is great. Let's do it again soon.